classified document situation, how does an objective, nonpartisan person look at these two situations and compare them? What's the objective way to compare them? Well, first of all, let's look at the partisan, dishonest, tribal way to look at these things. And listen to what I'm saying now and think to yourself, who has presented it in this way, right? If I am, say, a right-wing influencer, the way that I'm going to present this to you is that they're basically the same. Number one, when Trump did it, I wouldn't have had a lot of interest in talking about it. I wouldn't have jumped on the story and done a bunch of videos and looked into it and critiqued it and said this is unacceptable, Trump, blah, blah, blah. I would have been relatively silent when Trump did it. And then when Biden did it, I would have jumped all over it and like, oh, look at this and all that stuff they've been saying. And look, Biden did the same exact thing. That's what I would do. If I were a dishonest right-wing influencer, that would be my approach. How would I compare them? I would focus on mainly the part that is the most similar, right? Because there's two pieces. The way to look at this is there's two pieces, right? There is, sorry about that. There's the handling of the classified documents and there's the response to identifying that you have documents you're not supposed to have. So those are two components, right? If I'm a dishonest right-wing influencer, I'm going to focus on the biggest parallel, which is going to be obviously the handling of the documents, right? Because both Trump and Biden mishandled the documents, had documents they weren't supposed to have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep focusing on that to trick my viewers into thinking that's the same thing. I'm just going to say, well, they were saying that Trump so bad and now look at Biden. I'm also going to try to mislead you by trying to say Trump was treated unfairly, because I'll say, how come when Trump did it, they raided his thing and they're not going to raid Biden? That's unfair because they targeted conservatives and they're going after Trump because they hate him or whatever, right? I'm gonna trick you by trying to make it seem like it's the same thing on both ends. So I'm gonna focus again on the handling. You know, Trump didn't handle it well. Biden, I'm not gonna even say Biden did. I'm sorry, Trump didn't handle it well. I'm not even gonna say that, right? You can imply that from what I'm saying, but I won't even go that far. If I'm a dishonest right-wing influencer, I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna frame it as Biden did the same thing. Biden did the same thing. Biden did the same thing. Look at how they made all this big deal, and Biden did the same thing. I won't even have the integrity to even say that Trump mishandled the documents. Even now, right, I will point out that Biden did the same thing, but I won't say what the same thing is that Trump did. All right, think about that. Like that's all like manipulation. You're saying Biden did the same thing, which is meaning that they both did the same thing, but yet you won't say specifically that Trump mishandled the right? You won't focus on that at all. The old influencer, and I'm dishonest and I lack integrity, and I'm a tribal thinker. How will I present this? I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna focus only on the part that is the most different, right? I want to right? You are on the side that is at least not the right? I would say Biden's a left winger, but he's he acts like a right winger, but you know he appeals to a more liberal people, right? So my focus is I want to focus on what part of the story is the most different, so I can distinguish that somehow it's different, right? So what's the most different? The response to the documents, right? So if I'm a dishonest right winger, I'm going to focus on the mishandling and say it's the same thing, and I'm going to focus on they treated it differently. If I'm a left wing influencer, I'm going to focus on the different part, which is the response. I'm going to keep saying, well, when Biden had the documents, he turned them in right away. It's the same at all. It's not the same at all. You know, Trump. One second. Let me. Let's see. I'll see how the connection is. First of all, you got to break it into two pieces, right? Like I said. So you have handling of classified documents, and you have response to identifying that you have documents you're not supposed to have, right? So since it's two different things, right? That's the trick. No dishonest propagandist, left wing or right wing, is going to want to parse this into the two components, because if you do so, it doesn't serve the narrative of defending your side and attacking the other side. If truth is your goal, then you will break it into two pieces and do an analysis in the pieces. If manipulation and propaganda is your goal, you're gonna focus on the piece that makes your side look the best. So on the right wing, you want to pretend like it's unfair treatment of Trump, and you want to pretend like the mishandling is exactly the same. On the left wing, you only want to talk about Biden's response. Well, he responded right away. So what's the objective way? What's the reality way? The truth way? The truth way is first break it into two pieces. Handling of documents. Well, they both screwed up, right? And as a person that has had secret clearance, right? So I am familiar with procedures regarding handling sensitive information and sensitive documents. I've gotten training on that. I'm sure Trump got training and Biden got training on this, right? Just to give you a little piece. This is not document specific, this is information specific, but just to give you a little piece. So we one thing we get trained on is you never speak about, I'm going to call it contextual details. So for example, let's say that I work at a top secret base and I work on a top secret tank. When I'm talking to people, family members included, like, and they ask me, you're in the military, whatever, I'm not going to mention what base that I work at. I'm not even going to mention what my specialty is. So I won't even tell you that I work on tanks. I'm not going to tell you the base. I'm not going to tell you I work on tanks. Most people who don't have training of dealing with sensitive information, they would think saying that I work on tanks is fine. That's what most people would say. But I was trained, you don't talk contextually. So you're not going to talk about related stuff, right? I'm just going to say that I'm in the military. I don't know if I necessarily want to say even branch. Branch is probably fine, but I'm going to say I'm just not going to really discuss. I may find something very super vague that's nowhere related to automotive, not, yeah, I'm in the military, I'm a technician. What kind of technician? Well, we're not really supposed to get into, details like that. But I was a technician, and just leave it at that. Why they train you that way? Because they know that people that are trying to find out secrets can use the context to get to what you actually do, right? So they look into your background, they look into your hobbies, right? And then you say you work on tanks. Maybe you don't say the base, right? But then based on where you live, the friends you have on Facebook, right? And then you adding that detail of, like, I work on tanks, they can come up with a sort of a probability of what you're doing and where you're working. And they might have enough clues, especially with the detail that you give, to figure out that you work at this top secret base on this top secret tank, right? The problem is that you don't know the information that they have, right? So when you're saying a detail, you're saying just that one detail, but you don't know what they already know, right? You may be giving the final piece of the puzzle. So the bottom line is there's a lot of training on how to deal with top secret information, which Trump would have gotten, Biden would have gotten. And when you just would have to be very, very strict, right? So the idea of just kind of like accidentally, like, oh, we just had a bunch of papers and, human error. No. The way the military works, and I know we're talking about the government, but there's going to be a lot of parallels with the way things would happen in the, at the White House versus with the government. I'm sure there's a lot of similar principles. So the way that things work is, I know one of the concepts that we deal with in the military is redundancies, right? We make it so that it's almost impossible to have a failure. Like for example, when you're dealing with vehicles, there's something called what's it called? Counter maintenance, preventative maintenance. I forgot the term, but basically, we would replace a part that's perfectly good way before it really needs to be replaced, right? And that just sets the safety standards so much higher. So with a car, a normal civilian car, you wait till the tread is getting pretty bad. You're already having traction issues here and there, and then you're like, okay, I guess it's time to change the tire. In the military now, the tire, a tire might be replaced at a time where it's performing really, really well, right? Because the closer you get to where the tire is completely useless, the more risk there is of failure. So if you can replace things really, really early, you can prevent a lot of potential issues. I mean, the military, obviously, failures could be disastrous. And we have, in terms of our technology, there's a lot of redundancies as well. If this system fails, there's a backup system, there's a backup for that. So I would expect the White House to have similar processes in place in terms of handling of documents, right? Like, for example, I would imagine something like this. Whenever handling classified documents, good to see you at work, random channel surfing. Oh wow, good to see you, man. So I'd imagine a process like this, right? So when handling classified documents, so if you're gonna go and give the president a briefing, right, there is a designated document custodian, right? I'm just making this up. I'm just saying this is the type of things that you'd expect. Department of Defense, and therefore also White House. This is the way that they think. This is the way they would operate. So you have a guy who's designated as a document custodian, right? So anytime you go in, somebody has in, that person is the one who's responsible for the documents. They check it out from the secure location. They carry it with you. They walk with you to the whatever. And whenever you need the documents, you say to them, I need document 5A, and they will hand it to you. And there's probably a little checklist or whatever that they write down that they've handed you this document, hand you that document. And before you leave that room, they want everything returned, right? And they check it off. This is returned, this is returned, this is returned. And then they go to the classified storage area. They turn it back in, and they check it. Everything's checked out, right? And if anything gets misplaced or missing, the document custodian is responsible because that's their job. But that's not the only person. The person who does the briefing also needs to do a double check. So, it's like a double sign off. The custodian checks something, and then when you hand the document, he signs something. And then at the end of the meeting, each guy does the initial. The briefer initials that the documents were returned, the custodian initials. Like, this is the kind of stuff that, again, dealing with highly sensitive information, Department of Defense, this is the kind of stuff that they do. That's what I would expect. So absolutely, obviously by the volume, Trump was way more careless, right? Clearly, we can make that distinction that Trump was way more careless than Biden. But Biden absolutely, the amount of documents we're finding, that's an absolute failure on his behalf, right? And any left-wing person that doesn't say that, they only focus on, Biden responded better. Okay, again, that's the second part. We haven't dealt with that yet. We're dealing with right now the handling of the documents. They both failed. One did it much more than the other. It's like shoplifters, right? One guy shoplifted a $20 item, right? The other one came in with a huge duffel bag, right? This was planned out, and he planned to take a whole bunch of things, $500 worth of stuff. These guys are both shoplifters. They both committed a crime. The idea of someone trying to say that one shoplifter, it's not a big deal because he didn't bring the duffel bag. He just took one item. No. You guys are both shoplifters. Yes, clearly there's a distinction between taking one item and taking a whole duffel bag, clearly. And I'm sure in terms of the accountability and the sentence, you know, whatever it is, like fines or jail time, the guy with the duffel bag is probably going to get a stiffer thing. But you're both criminals, you both shoplifted, right? Let's not play games, right? So on the handling of documents, they both failed. It's unacceptable. Trump did it more than the other, but it's not a competition. We want our presidents to be professional, follow procedures, and handle classified documents the way that they should. We don't want you to just be the one that mishandles documents less than the other guy. Like, oh, well, our guy didn't do it as much. No. Bullshit, right? There's no excuse, knowing the way government functions, knowing, like, I know the rules in place, the infrastructure, the teams of people in, there's no excuse for misplacing top secret documents. So failed Biden, failed Trump. Trump did it worse, but who cares? It's not a competition. So that's the handling of documents. The next piece is the response. To do responding very quickly. He's cooperating, right? And Trump, on the other hand, fought, forcing them to have to do the raid. And then even after all this, he's still playing games, talking about, oh, I declassified them. Oh, you know, they maybe planted documents. Oh, he's got all these, like, story keeps changing. Like, Trump has got a massive duffel bag, right, with my analogy, stuffed with classified documents. And the security guard caught him, and he's sitting there like, no, I didn't steal anything, you know, this is my stuff, and I was just returning it, and this, that, right? Biden took a $20 item, which is a crime, and he should be held accountable. But when the security guard came, Biden's like, well, you know. Now you know, definitely a more liberal leaning person hearing this would want to point out that with Biden it was accidental, with Trump it was intentional. I can't read these people's minds in terms of to know who intended to do what. But it certainly looks like Trump was intentional the way he did it. Like, he's the one that was taking all, like, boxes and boxes of stuff from the White House, and then, what do you know, surprise, surprise, a lot of stuff that he took he's not supposed to take. Biden, on the other hand, we didn't have a similar situation where he's taking all this stuff out of the so I don't know about intention, but that he intended to. But one thing's for sure, again, guy with the duffel bag is arguing back with the security guard. You got stories. The story keeps changing. It's not my duffel bag. It's somebody else's duffel bag. I didn't know that stuff was in there. Maybe the guy in the store put stuff in there, right? Biden, on the other hand, is like, well, you got me, right? Some would say a better analogy is Biden is like, oops, right? He, like we've all done, gone into a store, has something in your hand, and you walk out by accident. That's what they're claiming Biden did. I can't say that's the case or not, whether it was accidental or intentional. I can't read his mind any more than I could read Trump's mind. With Trump, I do see some evidence that it seems to be intentional, but I can't prove that. With Biden, I don't have any evidence that it was intentional, but it could have been intentional. I just really can't say whether it was or it wasn't. But that's the way I would look at it, right? Two things, right? They both failed in handling of documents. Trump far worse than Biden in terms of handling of documents. But again, they both stole, right? Again, some people argue about intention, but that's a whole other thing. That's for a court of law to go and you know, evidence of intention. But with the facts that we know, right? They both mishandled the documents, right? Trump more than Biden. But where they clearly separate is the response. Trump went caught, fight, and he's still fighting. And he's still, look how long it's been, like, I don't know how long it's been, like over a year, right? Fighting and changing his story. Biden is just like, here it is, the documents. And I think they actually, after they got caught with some documents, he proactively went searching for other documents. So you don't need to raid Biden because Biden's the one, like unlike Trump, Biden is actually going out like, okay, here's this, here's all this stuff, right? Trump here is like, no, these are my documents. No, what are you talking about? I didn't, right? So that's the way I look at it. Now, I saw your comments. I didn't get to read them. I'm sorry. Wait, man, YouTube sucks. I could swear. Thor, didn't you write more than one comment? I saw like a couple things come in, and now when I look, I only see one comment. I don't know what that's all about. When a brilliant mind has a thought in their brain with magical insights, that is the world changing. The black budget world already. No. Oh shoot! I forgot. I was supposed to buy go to a hardware store. I need to buy a multi-tool. I just remembered. I think they're still open though. I need to get going. I'm gonna do my first window replacement. So I need that bar, and kind of excited, a little bit nervous, but we shall see. Anyway, I see you deleted your comment now. I don't like you. There's Trump and Biden should have never been president in the first place. Both too old, too dishonest, and too captured by this, elite sort of class establishment. And it's weird that Trump is able to fool his voters into thinking he's anti-establishment when it doesn't get more establishment than Trump, right? I mean, he was part of the reason that our government is the way it is, because he was one of the people buying off the politicians, right? And now when he got elected, he was able to be on the inside. So instead of buying off the politicians, he was the politician, right? Anyway, Biden's like the grandfather who peacefully passes away, slobbering in his sleep, but your passengers in the car are yelling and screaming. Oh man, ouch, savage. All right, man, let me get going. Thanks for joining. If you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe, click on the like button, and until next time, this is the Debate Me channel.